having a really strong vision and bringing on smart people and knowing when someone has a better idea, but also knowing when you need to fight for what you need. And that's not easy, but I think it comes from knowing your script really well and knowing how you want to tell it.
I had such an emotional response to this movie. I think partly because, I had divorced parents. My mother was married 3 times, and I have lots of stepmoms and stepdads and craziness. And but also I felt so deeply connected to so many things, and I feel like that's not very easy to accomplish in films. I've seen enough films to know it's not very easy to accomplish, and so what that means to me is that you're a fucking phenomenal filmmaker.
Thank you.
And congratulations on this. This is your first feature, right?
It's my first feature and the first feature script I ever wrote. So like first.
That's amazing. So tell us about the beginnings of this. The script. Is this autobiographical at all, or?
I always say it's like semi-autobiographical. It's based on a lot of truth in my life, but the characters are developed independently, and my sisters will have different perspectives on each of the characters, but it's kind of my perspective. And because it's the first thing I ever wrote, I did pull a lot from experiences in my life and trying to find like an honesty there.
In terms of your actors, who I feel like it must have been doubly challenging. Your casting process must have been doubly challenging because you're casting 3 sets of sisters, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
The casting was complicated. We had an incredible casting director, Stephanie Yankowicz of TBD Casting. She was so good. It was such a pleasure to work with her, but especially the sisters. And, we were casting right up until the end. I think everyone was sweating. I think the last actor was cast maybe a week before production. It was something crazy. But the issue is you had to cast the younger one and the older one first before you cast that middle, because you needed the middle to be the bridge. You needed, there needed to be some believability. And I really wanted to cast people that felt really natural, that for me, a naturalistic acting style was very important, and finding people that could really be the role. And the hardest character to cast was actually middle Eva, because she's playing the 2 summers, and there's actually a lot that happens in between. And so that was a really, really, really hard part to cast, because finding the right actor that could play that innocence, but then, be that turn, was really complicated.
Right, because she has that whole summer to herself when Violetta doesn't come, and her dad is starting to have I assume, he's hit a very bad depression because of the car accident and the guilt and everything that's happened. And then Violetta doesn't come because of anger or. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like as everyone has different coping mechanisms in the way that they process trauma. And some people protect themselves and avoid situations, and other people want to be that bridge to heal. And I think that's the difference between Eva and Violetta. Violetta is like self-preservation. I'm getting out. I'm protecting myself. And Eva's like, no, I want to have that connection. I want to be that person that can kind of bring us together.
So did you shoot this in New Mexico?
Las Cruces, New Mexico, yeah.
How many shooting days did you have?
We had 30 shooting days plus the still lives.
Talk about casting that dad. So I didn't know this, but he's like a rap star. He's a Puerto Rican Grammy-winning rap star.
I mean,
Residente?
Yes. Residente, Renee, he's incredible. I mean, I was so lucky. Both my sisters have been like uber fans of him since they were kids. When I told my sister that's 2 years my senior that he was going to be in the film, she's like, I had no idea that you made it. She was like, I really love this for us. She was so excited, and like immediately sent me like a Photoshop picture of her and Renee, like literally like 2 minutes later. And yeah, and I have like my youngest sister like rapping to Calle 13 when she was like 5 years old. So he's been, we've been super fans for a long time. And he's just such an artist, listening to his music, obviously. And then he did this documentary that I watched. And there was something about him that, he has that stereotypes of like that rough, stereotype Latin man where there's like this masculinity and the tattoos and just like you're ready to give all these stereotypes. But he's so smart and thoughtful and gentle. And that juxtaposition is what I wanted for this character. And he just had that naturally.
I mean, he gives a performance like he's been doing this for 50 years.
I mean, he's a talent.
You can see, he's one of those actors where you can see all the emotions like playing over his face so much. I mean, he was a big reason why I cried so much watching this, it was just, it's like you get that feeling of frustration from him. Like he wants to be doing so much better at this and could be doing so much better, and he knows. And somehow he's screwing it up, and he knows he's screwing it up. I wanted to talk about the love scene. Well, so let's talk about Leo Mahill, a trans actor who was also in Mutt last year, right? Or Mutt. Fantastic. I loved the, what I sort of expected was that she was going to be the persecuted sister because she was queer. And at one point, oh my gosh, someone calls her, what's it called? A dyke in Spanish?
Marimacha.
Marimacha. I learned that like years and years ago in the 90s. I said, if I asked someone who speaks Spanish if men are called maricon, what's a woman called? And we're like marimacha, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. I kind of love that word. But yeah, somebody calls her marimacha at the party, and the dad's like, no, she's just. I can't remember how he explains it away, but I felt it was so interesting the way that queerness was dealt with in this family, and it felt so real. Also, you could feel that character's uncomfortableness at not feeling, it's like everybody feels an uncomfortableness at some point at not being what their parents want, when you realize you're not what your parents want you to be and you're never going to be that. And I felt that so extremely. But then the relationship with the other daughter, he has an obvious favorite. That's one of the things on the list of things that makes him a bad dad, is he has a favorite and he shows it. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, that the handling of queerness was really important because I'm queer. I came out pretty young, and we have other traumas, and there's other things that go wrong in our lives. It's not always about our gender. It's not always about our sexuality. And I wanted to show that. I'm like, we have daddy issues. And it's still part of the story. I didn't want to hide it. I didn't want to make Violetta straight and hide any part of it. But it was really important to me for it to be a facet, but it's not what the story is about. So the story is about a father and his kids. It's not about, the coming out. It's not about the trauma of acceptance. It's not about that. And that was very important to me. And then in terms of the relationship is, he sees himself in Violetta. And he connects with that, and I think that's who he wants to appeal to and to be and to bond on this intellectual level.
Yeah.
But what he doesn't understand is that it's Eva that sees the best in him. It's Eva that sees the hope and the possibility of what he could be, and Violetta actually sees his negative. His negative parts.
Eva's the one who, from the beginning, is constantly trying to connect with him. She's the one who like touches him more. She's the one who makes things for him. And I'm just like, oh God, this is so painful. Seeing her want and need his attention so much. I don't think that I have ever seen a film that shows a trajectory of a parent's that shows the result of a parent's damage on their children so clearly as this one. And that's one of their, I mean, I think it's special for many reasons, but that's, you get to see the trauma on each child in the love scene between Leo and what's that character's name? Carmen?
Camilla.
Camilla. That shocked me. I think it seemed like it was going to be, they had such chemistry, they had liked each other for so long, and it's like, this is going to be such a great hot love scene. Of course, I'm looking forward to it because I'm a lesbian. And then the intimacy drains out of the scene, and it's kind of shocking how that turns out.
Yeah, I think, it's easy. Like, Eva wears her wounds on her sleeve. It's very easy to see how, that she's wounded and that she's going through pain, and it's very obvious. And I think Violetta would like to believe that she's above it and she's healed from it. And it takes her longer to realize that that she has her own trauma too, and she has a journey to go through in order to be able to be healed herself. And it comes out in that scene.
I also kind of wondered if what I felt was that character was making love like she felt a man was supposed to make love, or someone who's masculine is supposed to make love. That's what I took from it, like a person who watches porn and imitates what's in porn, not understanding that that's not real intimacy.
The aggression.
Yeah.
The
And I had never seen something like that before. And it also made me think about, as a queer woman, I don't often think how my father has influenced me. And as a masculine identifying person, I don't think about how my father has influenced me.
Oh, I'm the opposite. I'm like a product of my father, 100%. Like my dad's name was Guido, and from being very young, they called me Guidina because I was just like a carbon copy of him. And for better or for worse, I am my father's child.
Congratulations. I think I didn't want to emulate my dad's. I grew up in a very male-dominated conservative culture in Southern Illinois. My dad had a very macho job as a farmer. He drove heavy equipment. He was my dad is like one of those guys, he's a man's man, always with the mustache or the beard or in his aftershave. I mean, Dad he quit smoking, but he always used to smell like aftershave and cigarettes. What's the brand of Marlboro? I don't know. But when I encounter that smell again, I'm like, it's my dad. But anyway, thank you for including those things. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing myself, and but also seeing what happens to we're queers, but we're all different, and we all emulate. It's interesting who we decide to emulate as which parent, if we choose a parent to emulate. I love that you included this scene because, okay, first I want to talk about the altars. The ofrendas. Are ofrendas just Mexican, or are...
So these are actually modeled after Dutch vanitas paintings.
Oh, okay.
Memento moris, which are a reflection of your own mortality. The classic still lives where you would have, a skull and a candle and flowers, and they're just supposed to symbolize the brevity of life. And that's what those are, because for me, that's what this film is. It's a reminder of our own mortality and how, every decision we make has a consequence, and we have to kind of live with that and live with ourselves and eventually make peace with what we've done.
So were those your idea?
Yeah, they've been in the script. Yeah. And I had to.
So did you guys notice that every altar had things on it from each summer. Like the first altar had the spaghetti on it and the eggs and the. That's what I noticed this time watching it that I didn't see
Yeah.
in the first time. I was like, oh fuck, that's great.
Yeah. So those are all written in the script, but then my incredible production designer, because I had a certain rhythm, and she then just made it more, and we kept adding and kept working with it. They're actually very complicated to make. It's not, it took a long time. And then at the end, the one I had in the script was very simple. And she was like, did you give up? Like, why isn't there more in there? And she just created it. And I think they turned out beautifully. I'm really happy with them.
I love this relationship that develops between the sisters, and that's the whole reason that you have hope in this movie. There's so many sad things going on, but the reason that you have hope is that they have each other. And I have a sister too, and we share a dad, and me and my sister bitch about my dad. So it's like these two have each other, and they will also be able to support each other because each one is the only person who knows what their dad is like, and be able to deal with like the issues with their dad.
I mean, that's one of the powerful things about siblings. There's no one else that's a witness to your own life in the way a sibling is. Someone who can actually relate and see what you experienced and hold your hand and be there with you. I'm incredibly close to my sister. I really think that she's the reason that I was able to survive our childhood. Both in big and small ways, and we continue to be extremely close. And I think the power of that relationship for me has made me a better person, has made me want to not, go into the dark side in a lot of ways. And if it's the crux of this, like that's the reason that we do, as you said, we do have hope and we can kind of continue on. Now, I know not everyone has those relationships with their siblings, but that was my experience. But I still think that reflection of having someone to see the trauma, having someone to see the joy and be able to just be witness, and how important it is to have that witness.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, like him crying at the end, him making the daughter buckle in the car. I don't know. I'm always heartened when at the end of a movie people do figure something out. I'm just like, they did it. They figured it out. And he's so complicated that you both feel sorry for him and both feel he deserves this. I felt both things.
Yeah, I'm glad that's on purpose.
Yeah. Did you guys feel both things?
Yeah. For me, I think if there's anything I want people to take away is the complexity of the human experience and how it's not black and white. We're not good and bad, but we're just a combination of all those things. We live in that gray. And I think if there's any theme to my work, it's that there's no such good thing as like good and evil, but a lot of in-betweens.
So we have a lot of filmmaking community, other members at Film Independent. Do you have any advice for first time?
Oh my goodness, I get that question. I'm always like, I don't know, I would like some more advice too. I think for me, having a really strong vision and knowing, bringing on smart people and knowing when someone has a better idea, but also knowing when you need to fight for what you need. And that's not easy, but I think it comes from knowing your script really well and knowing how you want to tell it and what you want the audience to take away, and having that be like your North Star, and that clarity really helps you make all the decisions along the way. Because the hope is that the people that you're going to bring in are going to be smarter than you and are going to be able to have those better ideas. But you also need to know when they're having you deviate from your plan.
Do you have a next thing lined up feature-wise?
I'm in the process of writing it. It's very different. It's a military project. That'll be darker. but it's still early on in the process.
And this comes out this month, right?
September.
Okay.
Yeah, LA, New York, Puerto Rico, September 20th, and then we're expanding to other cities after that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.